Well, welcome back today to the Children First Family Law podcast. I'm really excited today to have Larry and Joni Jones with us, and they are coming from New Mexico. Welcome to you both. I'm glad we were able to work out a time to do this.
Thank you for having us, Krista.
Well, I've already introduced this slightly in my introduction, but if you could introduce yourselves a little bit, sort of give a background of your interest in family law and why you initially, we're going to be talking mostly about this amazing video that you put out called Point C, which we will put in the show notes and people should go. I'm already sending it to lots of parents when I work with them. So really important viewing for parents and attorneys and everybody in the family law system to get the perspective that you all bring. But tell us a little bit about yourselves and then the genesis of the Point C material that you created.
Sure. So we'll start with a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Lawrence Jones, Larry Jones. I was a family court judge for many years in the Superior Court of the state of New Jersey. I retired from public service in 2017. Do a lot of mediation and restorative practice right now. We now live in the state of New Mexico, and I teach at the University of New Mexico various legal subjects. Joni?
And my name is Joni Jones. I've been a registered nurse for over 45 years, and I am board certified in mental health and psychiatric nursing. I'm also a certified anger management specialist. I am a certified mediator, and also I do restorative circles in the state of New Mexico. And I just have, a real impact on the Point C because I was the product of a contentious divorce, and I was left homeless over that, along with my brother, who was a diabetic. I was only 16. He was 17, and he needed insulin. And because I had support along the way from guidance counselors and everything else, that made all the difference, even to why I'm in the career that I am today.
How long have you two been together? Like, I'm just curious, just how did you meet each
I
other?
think it was 1,000 years as of Lord's Day. I think it was.
How did you connect?
We've been married for 30, going on 32 years, I believe, is
Okay.
what it is.
Okay.
And but who's counting, right? When you see this every day, which I did, and everyone's got the same talking lines, it seems, whether they're represented by a counsel or whether they're represented by an attorney. Everyone's always saying, this is for the best interest of the child. We have to look out for the best interest of the child. And, litigation itself, contentious litigation, by its very nature, can be in the absolute worst interest of a child. Now, that doesn't mean that a divorce shouldn't take place. There are some times when a divorce really has to take place because the relationship is over. There's a lot of arguing going on. And sometimes it's actually better for people in the family, everybody, if the marriage, if it's not working out, is to just, start with a new chapter of some mutual peace. Some people get along much better with their ex-spouses than when they were married as spouses. I mean, you see that happen. But a lot of gamesmanship takes place in the court, a lot of posturing, a lot of like Joni says, actions speak louder than words. A lot of words are thrown around in typewritten insults about each other in certifications or affidavits. And meanwhile, nobody on the outside could look at that situation objectively and say, this is in any way in the best interest of a child. How is this in the best interest of the child? It's in the worst interest of the child. So if you have to have a divorce, a separation or divorce, because the marriage just didn't work out, there are ways to do it without having a scorched earth policy and taking everyone down with you, including the emotional best interest of the child. And so that's the point of Point C was that to kind of be a wake-up call to parents, to attorneys, to anyone else who's in the system who thinks that by fighting with each other nonstop, that somehow is justified by being in the child's best interest. If you think about it, Krista, most states have joint legal custody, right? The option for that, which means that regardless of who the child lives with, both parents have the ability and the right to participate in the child's life. But what's expected from joint custodians, and it'll say this in a lot of statutes, like for example, the New Jersey statute says in considering joint custody, they have to consider the ability of the parties to work with each other following divorce. Now think about this. You're getting divorced on, let's say, no fault grounds of irreconcilable differences. What does that mean? It means you can't agree on it. That's what that means. But they're sending you out with that divorce decree saying you can't be married anymore because you can't stand each other. You can't do anything with each other. You're not functional with each other. But by the way, you're now going to be joint custodians. That's your job description, right? Oh, you're going to work with each other without any transition, without any supports. And this is somehow in the best interest of the child. Now, theoretically, of course, it's in the best interest of the child if both parents could, after divorce, get along with each other or at least respectfully coexist. Which sometimes is the best you're going to get. But even when you get that, that could be all right in certain instances. But you don't get that sometimes. You just get a piece of paper that says, this is what you're supposed to be. But the divorce and all the dirty laundry and bag of rocks that's left over from your dysfunctional marriage or relationship is being carried forward post-judgment. And that's what's kind of depicted to some degree in point C and the dangers of that happening to the child's emotional best interest. So people talk a lot about child's best interests, but their actions sometimes work directly contrary to that, even if they don't mean it to be that way, which usually you don't, and even if they don't see that for themselves. So a lot of times we heard from mediators and stuff like that. I heard even from one of the judges who was showing the tape in the courtroom that people started crying during it. And people say, sometimes they wanted to rethink whether they're going to continue, the contentious litigation in the same fashion. It's not some cure-all for everybody, but it's something that could give some food for thought for people to find themselves in the constant a warfare that sometimes, unfortunately and unnecessarily, takes place in family court.
I think it really deserves more self-reflection. I mean, for just as by way of one example, if your attorney is fighting with the child advocates, right, who everyone is brought on to try to help, or fighting with the mediators, or, when you have the ability to get a little bit of a more neutral view
Right.
of your case, like when I get or you get made the enemy, that's really a problem. Like you should really be stepping back and going, maybe this
Right.
is me. Maybe I'm misreading this, right? And so for, many, many attorneys are great at this and many individuals who are advising people are great at it, but others like join that fight. I call it the echo chamber.
Yeah.
They just,
Yeah. It's like
they-
the attorneys are getting divorced sometimes.
yeah, I mean,
It's like there's this, and haven't you seen, Krista, haven't you seen cases like that where it's like in the mediation where the attorneys are yelling at each other and the parties are looking at each other saying, what are we doing here? Like
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
we don't need this, but maybe sometimes you do, depending on the issues. There are some times to kind of reverse what you had just said. There may be instances when you have a neutral person, at least on paper, a neutral person, a mediator, someone else who's appointed by the court, whatever it may be, and maybe they're not doing such a great job.
yeah, that's
Like
definitely,
in everything
yeah.
else, and in which case the attorneys need to obviously step up and represent, but there are ways to do that.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was going to say there.
There are ways that there's demeanor and tone and respect, professional respect, and you're going to get, if you have any chance of changing the flow of things, it's not going to be by yelling and screaming.
What we need to do is we need to be the models. We need to be the teachers of our children, because when they start going out to these other sources, you don't know. You don't know what they're being taught. All they know is they want to start to feel accepted. They want to start to feel that they're loved. They want to, increase their self-esteem. But are they really, if they're getting mixed up in something that is not really positively structured? And this is why we have the skill building portion on our website, because there in animosity, one of the things that I like to talk about in contentious divorces, because a lot of people don't know, if they're not shown and they don't know and they don't have the skills, then they don't have the tools on how they can help take control of the process and problem solve. And one of the big things that I feel is very important is learning about heartfelt forgiveness. Because when you have a contentious divorce, there's all this anger and hostility and blame and this and that. And, when you look at the traditional sense of forgiveness, Many times, you might have a relationship with somebody and you might want to, minimize what really happened, forgive them, and then go back to, having, a relationship with that person and move on. But in heartfelt forgiveness, it's quite different, because in heartfelt forgiveness, what you're doing is you are forgiving so that you are not caught in that entrapment of not being able to, to love or to move on or to get off of the perseverative thoughts of, this person did it to me and I'm going to go back and I'm going to have this revenge and everything.